Hello, my dear friends. How are you? I hope I find you all in good health and safe and sound. Welcome. Thank you for joining me here. I'm Mari Theriger, and today I would like to have a brief view on what Satanism is. Take it as my contribution to the subject. I will try to be as brief and as straight to the point as it is possible. I have seen quite a lot of explanations concerning Satanism, and obviously from the part of those who truly know what they are talking about, because those are the ones that matter. I see that, and mind you, understandably, it takes a long time to explain what is Satanism, because, well, fortunately, we are not dealing with a fixed dogmatic structure of the religious, but a moral and philosophical religious perspective, which somewhat accompanies or tries to accompany the changes and the necessities of humanity in its current state. So its ethics are in accordance to the social endeavors we are part of in each generation as humanity evolves. Given this, it takes a long time to explain what Satanism stands for and where its focus lies, because even though many of its original premises are still more or less applicable in today's current society, fortunately, some attempts and efforts towards a fairer existence within society and our struggles to create societies in which people have better opportunities to thrive, grow, and evolve have already been reached, but obviously other social struggles and new ones remain, appear, or reappear. And Satanism, in its convictions and ethic philosophies, is always adapting to the new circumstances. So we cannot simply remain stuck on the original past ideas as if they reflected Satanism for what it is, because, again, we are not dealing with an immovable dogmatic foundation. And also, there are obviously many branches of Satanism and people's own approaches to life and their own philosophies of life applicable to various forms of Satanism. So, this video today is simply trying to explain it, and then for those who may not be familiar with it, may delve into the subject on their own and find more about it. This video is simply a brief explanation. So, let us now go straight to it, as I've already taken much of your time. Very well. Satanism is a polysemic concept. That is, it is something that has several meanings with the characteristics of having multiple meanings. It is both a Christian way of naming an antagonist of God and his creation, satanizing something or someone, especially in political and religious senses, towards an enemy or a group or something or someone in opposition and being mentioned as something negative. As well as it is a multifaceted religion that makes a positive reinterpretation of the meaning of Satan. And it is this last point that I want to talk about here, obviously. So, several authors seek definitions to understand this religion. Some authors argue that expressions of religious Satanism should be understood as a complex negotiation between atheism, secularism, and other religious traditions. And perhaps here lies the first doubt, right, for many who began to study this religious movement. Because although at first it seems that there is a specific cult of Satan, given the name, in fact, people often come across a narrative of religious skepticism, a strong atheist understanding in relation to the religious and the divine, in which the figure of Satan is often not seen as a real divine figure or a specific entity to whom worship is given, but a symbolism that serves as a philosophical and ethical mechanism to expose precisely what is wrong with traditional religions, namely with Christianity. Other authors propose thinking of Satanism from the perspective of social history, as the cult of the character identified by the name of Satan or Lucifer in the Bible, looking at groups with at least a minimum of organization and hierarchy, and also through rituals or liturgical practices. Of course, other doubts arise here, right? Precisely because some groups and people really do worship Satan and or Lucifer, and others not so much. Some people make a clear division between Satan and Lucifer as distinct entities, taking into account the scriptures sometimes, and also what each represents. This also often leads to people confusing Satanism with witchcraft, or actually claiming that witchcraft is Satanism or that Satanism is part of witchcraft. This last point would give rise to hours and hours of conversation, not only due to the Christian religious understanding of witchcraft and the introduction of the figure of Satan or the devil as a religious element of witchcraft by the church since the 10th century at least, and with special emphasis during the religious Reformation and the witch trials, in which the figure of Satan and or the devil becomes a central figure of witchcraft in the attempts to discover, persecute, and condemn many people for many reasons, condemning them for Satanism or devil worship, but also, as I was saying, because precisely because of these medieval and modern religious traditions, the figure of the devil indeed ends up entering European folk magic traditions, becoming a truly central figure in some of these traditions, but which really have nothing to do with the biblical figures, and becomes more of a title for other entities that were once central in the magical currents of animistic belief systems prior to Christianity. Here the point is that, even historically speaking, and only historically speaking, Satan, Lucifer, the devil, and the devil in traditional folk magic are all different and multifaceted conceptions, and this draws a lot of doubts and confusion when dealing with the understanding of Satanism, especially because when we are dealing with Satanism as a religion, we are talking about a recent religious construction. The first formalized form or attempt of a satanic or Satanist group that perpetuated a tradition of Satanism was the American Church of Satan, under the leadership of its high priest Anton LaVey. Officially registered in 1966 in California, the group gained significant visibility during the 1960s and 1970s, appearing in several newspaper articles and magazines, and also in television programs. Even though Satan, the devil, and or Lucifer originated within Christian or Judeo-Christian theology, Satanism does not perceive him as a symbol of fear, but of identification. But this understanding did not arise spontaneously in the second half of the 20th century, right? With the Church of Satan and Anton LaVey. During the 19th century, in literary circles, Romantic Satanism reevaluated Satan positively, opening space to understand him as the mythological personification against despotic power, as a personification of the archetype of rebellion. The positive reappraisal of this famous antagonist influenced the minds of Eliphas Levi, Helena Blavatsky, Aleister Crowley, and many other self-declared occultists and Satanists. So it's also important here to have this in mind, that Satan has become a personification of the archetype of rebellion, because then, in several neo-pagan movements and in modern witchcraft, especially after the 1960s onwards, many gods and goddesses will then be equated with this specific Satan in this new tendency to give archetypes to divine figures. So it's important to understand why certain pagan deities, spirits, and other figures in modern paganism and witchcraft often draw these parallels with the Romantic Satan, precisely because of this reinterpretation and reappraisal of the biblical antagonist in occultic circles that greatly influenced neo-paganism, especially in the creation of Wicca as both a New Age religion as well as the basis of modern witchcraft, which then influenced many other New Age and neo-pagan religious movements and organizations. Moving on, many people try to understand the political side of Satanism, and as politics and religion do not exist in isolation from each other, as is the case with other religious expressions, the political positioning of people and groups that call themselves Satanists is diverse, varies according to the historical context, and is not always officially declared. I say this because ethics, that is, the set of moral principles and values that guide human behavior in the different spheres of life, is present in religion, and religion has a prominent role in social organization, and the analysis of its discourse allows us to notice the dynamics of power. Therefore, politics and religion are always hand in hand. So, in terms of the political sides of Satanism, they can be close to the right or extreme right, neo-Nazism, fascism, as well as the left, and progressive agendas that defend the secularity of the state, that seek gender equality, fight against homophobia, racism, and other social agendas. The point here is that Satanism does not have a fixed political understanding because, like all religions, and as I said, it varies and depends on the historical and social context. In the Church of Satan, for instance, as an example, although there is an appreciation of transgression and an appeal to freedom in a countercultural context, elitism is one of its prominent marks, based on the prerogative that such a religion is not for everyone, but rather for a select group of people who have been able to access such knowledge. So this libertarian Satan, according to them, according to the Church of Satan, does not want freedom for everyone, but for a select group of chosen ones, the strong who must dominate, reiterating the oppression to those to whom the hidden knowledge has not been revealed. Hence, even within the Church of Satan, we see or we find or we have conflicts between the most elitist and those who abhor elitism. On the other hand, another example, the Satanic Temple, a non-theistic Satanist group founded in 2012 in the United States, claims to reject social Darwinism and authoritarian fetishism that is expressed in its views in LaVeyan Satanism, or in that of Anton LaVey. In other political activities, they organize campaigns in defense of the right to abortion and the secular nature of the state. Due to the widespread media visibility of the Church of Satan during 1966 and 1970 in the United States, and conservative reactions to countercultural issues, many horror movies or films depict Satan-worshipping groups on various historical periods depicted by said movies. Even today, right, it is very common to see groups that direct a veneration to Satan or the devil or the Prince of Darkness in movies and TV series, especially in North American productions, which in turn also influenced other cinematographic productions from other countries. But this was a conservative North American response, creating a climate of fear and horror, turning the Satanist into almost a strange, psychopathic creature with his long robes, strange ornaments, and macabre rituals bathed in blood. But the truth is that it was only from the 19th century that we began to see figures who called themselves self-proclaimed Satanists, namely occultists, during the Romantic era, in which there was a great reinterpretation and revision of many themes of spirituality and religion. And it was only from the 1970s that a religious organization of Satanism began to emerge. And it was only from then on that sociology and then history began to academically study this religious expression. So, my dear friends, I do hope this video was useful and entertaining. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the next video. And as always, thank you for today. Until we meet again, my dear friends,